Eyes in the dark. The man who refused to die. Shot him, and still, he didn't die.
First, they laced his food with cyanide. When he didn't die, they shot him. He collapsed, only to get right back up, so they shot him again. And finally, bleeding and bound, they threw him into a freezing river. This was the execution of Grigory Rasputin. Even a century later, the exact details of that night remain elusive. Who exactly was this man? To thousands across Russia, he was a holy man. Many firmly believed he possessed genuine supernatural abilities, capable of healing the sick with a mere touch. But to others, that same mystic aura made him deeply terrifying. Whispers circulated that he was a dangerous charlatan and a severe threat to the stability of the entire nation. This mystical reputation convinced a group of powerful men that he was too dangerous to be handled through politics alone. To save the country, they decided he had to die. At the time, the Russian Empire was ruled by the Romanov dynasty. They held absolute control over millions of subjects, but behind the palace walls, their grip on the country was quietly fracturing. Rasputin had managed to embed himself deep within this fragile inner circle. He gained the ear of the Tsar and Tsarina, and soon gathered a massive following among St. Petersburg's high society elite. To the traditional Russian aristocracy, this was an existential threat. They saw an uneducated peasant effectively dictating state policy and viewed him as a parasite rotting the monarchy from the inside out. A faction of noblemen, led by Prince Felix Yusupov, decided they had seen enough. They concluded the only way to save the empire was to cut the infection out entirely by assassinating the mystic. The conspiracy was a desperate, chaotic exorcism by an empire on the verge of total collapse. The trap was set on a freezing December night in 1916. Conspirators lured Rasputin to Yusupov's sprawling Moika palace, situated directly along the river. They offered him cakes and wine heavily laced with cyanide, easily enough to kill several men. They watched in silence, waiting for him to choke. Instead, he simply asked for more. One leading theory is chemical. The molecular structure of sugars in the cakes can bind to cyanide molecules, neutralizing their toxicity. Another theory is biological. A severely thickened stomach lining from chronic gastritis would drastically slow the absorption of levothyroxines. Whether protected by molecular chemistry or his own failing stomach, the result was the same. The poison failed. Watching their target casually eat cyanide broke the assassin's nerves, turning a quiet execution into a frantic bloodbath. Panicking, Yusupov pulled a revolver and shot Rasputin. The mystic collapsed, but minutes later his eyes snapped open and he lunged directly at them. Forensic analysis offers a rational explanation for this. In the dim lighting of a basement cellar, the initial shot likely missed his heart and major organs. What the assassins saw as a resurrection was actually a massive surge of human adrenaline. But to the terrified men in that room, the science didn't matter. They were watching his physical body prove the very myth he had used to control the Tsar. He was impossible to kill. Rasputin scrambled up the stairs and burst out into the courtyard. The conspirators chased him down, firing into the snow. They struck him twice more, yet he still struggled. Panicking, they beat him, tied his hands, hauled him to the Neva River, and dropped him into the freezing water. The aristocrats had set out to perform a righteous political intervention to save their country. The horrific, fumbling brutality required to finish the job proved they were entirely out of their depth. The official autopsy concluded that he died of hypothermia under the ice. Yet, even that remains debated by historians, leaving a permanent cloud of uncertainty over his final breaths. But as morning broke over St. Petersburg, the medical cause of his death no longer mattered. Word spread through the streets, and the political fallout was instantaneous. The assassins thought removing Rasputin would project strength and restore faith in the crown. Instead, the messy, public nature of the killing exposed the profound fragility of the Romanov dynasty to the world. The power vacuum he left behind accelerated the unrest already simmering across the country. Within weeks, the streets filled with massive, organized protests. 2 months later, Tsar Nicholas II was forced to abdicate. The 300-year reign of the Romanov dynasty ended in total collapse. Grigory Rasputin began as an outsider, pulling political levers in the shadows. But his violent, defiant refusal to die quietly cemented his legend and ultimately pulled the entire Russian Empire down into the ice with him.
Subscribe to the Kingmaker's Game to uncover what history hides.